Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to mi casa. Today I'm sharing some beautiful yet simple DIYs that you can create for Valentine's Day. And whether or not you like to decorate for Valentine's Day, there's going to be something here for you. So for this first DIY, we're going to be using one of these tinsel hearts that you can find at your local Dollar Tree. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to remove all of that tinsel. Then what you're going to do is get some inexpensive chalk paint and paint the frame in white. You may need a couple coats. Next, you're going to use some burlap ribbon. I got this one at Dollar Tree as well. And you're going to want to cut multiple strips to fit horizontally as well as vertically on the wreath. Then you're going to start feeding the ribbon through the grid in order to form a basket weave. You're going to wind up with something that looks like this. Alright, once you got your basket weave the way you want it, you're going to take the ribbon and you're going to take some hot glue and you're going to glue those edges all the way around the heart, securing that ribbon. Once you're done gluing the edges, then you're going to want to cut off that excess. Next, you want to take some rose bushes, and I got 3 different colors because I'm going for an ombre effect. These are also from Dollar Tree. You're going to want to pull them off the stems, and then you're going to want to secure the little green bud onto the petals so that they do not fall off. And then you're going to cut off that little piece at the end so that it lies flat when you hot glue it all around the perimeter. I started with the darkest roses on the bottom, and then I worked my way up to the lighter roses, all the way up to the top where I used the white. Then after you've glued on all of your roses, all you have to do is add some jute string to the very top so that you can hang it on your wall or on your front door. And there you have it. So let's say you like the heart shape and you like wreaths, but you don't care for the basket weave. Well, Dollar Tree carries these heart-shaped wreath forms as well, and we're going to use this for this DIY. So I'm going to be using some linen ribbon as well as some rose bushes from Dollar Tree. And because this ribbon is a little bit too wide, I am going to go down the ribbon and just cut it in half. Next, I'm just going to start wrapping the wreath form with that ribbon. And I'm going to be hot gluing on occasion throughout, not necessarily every single time I wrap it, but every once in a while just to make sure that I keep that ribbon secured onto that wreath form. And I also like to evenly space out the ribbon so that each section is about the same size. Now, in order to keep the centerpiece nice and clean, I did cut out a smaller piece of ribbon and I attached it to the front like this. I cut out a little insert in the front so that I can kind of spread it out on both sides and then wrap it over the back. That way it's a nice little clean front peak to that heart. And then I continued to wrap the wreath until I met the bottom area. Now, because I'm going to be adding flowers to the bottom, you don't need to cover that peak, but you can do so if you wish. And this time, to give it a different look, I decided to use the greenery as well as the roses. So I picked off the leaves first, added them to the bottom of the wreath, and then I'm going to glue the flowers on top of them. And here I did something similar where I added the lighter colored roses to the top and then used the darker ones on the bottom. I also used some jute string in the back to hang it up, and that is it for this gorgeous wreath. Now let's say you're really not into pink, you're really not into roses, but you still want to do something. So we are going to recreate this leafy heart wreath from Grandin Road, and it's so easy. You really don't need much for it except some greenery. Now I'm going to use this heart form from Dollar Tree as well in order to create the form on some foam board. So if you don't have a heart-shaped wreath, don't worry, just get you some foam and draw a heart form on it. After I drew the initial heart, I took some measuring tape and I just began to draw the same size line all the way around because I needed to connect those ends of those lines in order to create the wreath form. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to draw around, kind of like connecting the dots in order to create that form. Then I'm going to come back with the box cutter and just cut out that form. The great thing about this is that you can create a heart wreath as big or as small as you want. All right, we want to get this wreath form a little bit more sturdy, and we also want to hide the fact that it is foam board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some jute string or jute rope, whatever you call it, and I'm going to start wrapping it around the entire foam form so that it reinforces it as well as make it look a little bit more natural. And then I had these eucalyptus stems from Dollar Tree as well as some larger ones from Walmart. And I like this because both of them were a little bit different in tone and the ones from Walmart looked a little bit higher end. So mixing and matching these together really looked beautiful. And I'm just going to cut each and every one of these stems individually. After that's done, then we're going to start adhering these little stems all the way around the wreath form and just kind of working both of the different kinds together so that you get like the dual tone look of all of the leaves. And I personally wanted this very full, so I'm placing them very closely together and also filling any gaps that I might have along the way. And I'm just going to work my way around the entire wreath. And then when I was done, I flipped it around and added this beautiful striped ribbon to the back of it and just hot glued it. And because it's not that heavy, it's going to stand the test of time. Honestly, I've never had an issue with this, but I did add a little bit of pieces horizontally, as you can see, to reinforce it. And that is it. All right, so let's say you like roses, but you don't care for a wreath. Not a problem. Let's knock off these Serena and Lily vases in order to add a little bit more style to a floral arrangement. And if your Goodwills are anything similar to the ones that I've been in, there's always a ton of glass vases everywhere. So you just need a couple of simple ones. However, these ones in particular I do love because they're a thicker glass. And these are also the same shape despite being different sizes, which I think makes it look even better because it looks like a set. Now I did clean these very well with soap and water and made sure they were completely dry, and then I started taping them off because I am going to be spray painting them on the bottom portion to look like the ones from Serena and Lily. You want to make sure you take your time with this and make sure that that tape is firmly on your glass so that you can ensure that you have a crisp line. I added some rubbing alcohol real quick and wiped it down to make sure that the glass had no residue at all, and then I began to spray paint. I did start off with a primer just to make sure that I get really good adhesion on that glass. And the key to doing this well is to do very light coats and several of them. So you just want to go very light on it and not be heavy-handed and just go left to right as you see me doing here. And again, the lighter hand that you have, the better. Now you're going to want to wait till your primer is completely dry before you go in with your actual spray paint. And here I'm using like a glossy white. And as you can see, I'm applying it in the same manner. I'm going very light-handed, doing several coats, going side to side. This is going to get you the most even coat and the most professional look. I let these dry overnight to make sure that the paint was completely cured, and then I was very careful when removing it. And that is it. Now, in order to make this look a little bit higher end and classier, you do want to get some nicer roses. I would suggest perhaps at least going to Walmart, if not Hobby Lobby. Alright, so here's an idea for another tabletop arrangement. This one's a little bit more involved, but it's really simple, I promise. First, you're going to get a ball, like a plastic baseball from Dollar Tree, or you can also use a styrofoam ball for this. Just make sure if it's a plastic one, you drill a hole in it because we're going to be inserting a dowel. Now, we're going to be using those same roses that I used in the first two wreaths, again from Dollar Tree. This time, though, you're going to want to remove that green backing so that it adheres better onto the ball. And because you're removing that backing, you're going to want to glue the petals together so that they do not come apart. And that's what I'm doing here. Now you can make this a solid pink, a solid white, any color that you want. But again, I'm going to go for the ombre look. So I'm doing white on top, the medium color in the middle, and then the darker one on the bottom. Now, in order to make this look as nice as possible, you're gonna want to make sure you put these roses very close together so that they're nice and full and you don't see the ball underneath. Just make sure that you don't glue over that hole that you drilled earlier. For this stem, I'm just going to use an inexpensive dowel rod and I'm just staining it here. Then I'm going to use some hot glue to insert it and secure it in place. I added more hot glue as well as another rose in order to cover that area. And then for the base, you can use whatever you had on hand. I had this little Santa bucket that I added some rope around and I made it look like a basket. And then I just added some floral foam to the bottom of it, securing it with hot glue. I inserted the dowel, making a little hole with a pencil first. And then I'm just going to go in and fill it in with some green moss so that you don't see the floral foam underneath. You can leave as is, add a ribbon, or imagine creating 2 of these to put on either end of a credenza. Now let's say you wanted a little bit more rustic and a little bit less pink and something out of the box, literally. I had these 4 small canvas pieces and I just took off the canvas. These are from Dollar Tree, you see them all the time. And I thought I'd use the wood frames. Once I removed the canvas, I made sure to remove all of the staples. Now I did not want these holes to show, so I did take some wood filler and fill them in, and then I went back in and sanded them. And once that was done, I took some wood glue and I adhered them together in order to create a little box or a lantern, if you will. Now the reason I did this instead of using hot glue is because with hot glue, since it's so thick, sometimes you see it between the seams and I did not want to see it. So once it was dry, I went back in with some white chalk paint. Now you can definitely leave it like this, but I did want to add a glaze to it. I waited until it was completely dry before starting on the glaze, and I'm just applying it with an old sock. You know, the ones that you just for some reason can't find the other pair to. Those are great to have around in order to apply glazes like this. Now, using the same striped ribbon that I used earlier for my greenery wreath, I'm going to use this one here to hang these cute little grapevine hearts that I also got at Dollar Tree on all 4 sides. And I think this looks so precious with a candle inside. Alright, we're going to get real creative on this one, and we're going to be using some leftover Christmas supplies. You heard that right, Christmas. We're going to take some foam board again from Dollar Tree, and we're going to take a small heart. They have tons of these at Dollar Tree, or you can just draw your own. I used this as a template, and then I cut out that heart with some scissors. Now, much like that wreath that we created from scratch earlier, we're also going to create a little one from scratch. I'm just using a Sharpie here and creating another one inside, and then I'm just going to cut it out. Alright, so next you're going to take some berry stems from Dollar Tree. I'm sure you have some left over, and we're going to remove each stem individually. But then we're going to go a step further and we're going to cut down those little berries into little clusters, and then we're going to start gluing them on that little heart shape. Now, in order to make this look the best as possible, you're going to want to make sure that those little clusters are as close together as possible. You're also going to want to add little berries along the inside perimeter as well as the outside perimeter so that you hide any foam from those angles. Now, as you may already know, once you pull those little berries apart, they do uncover the little white styrofoam pieces underneath. So you're going to want to come back in with a nice bright red or any color of your choosing and just color all over those areas. And then after that was dry, I came back in with some glossy Mod Podge in order to make it nice and glossy. Then I had this frame that I've actually had for a while and I didn't know what to do with it because it had 2 holes on the top. I swear I did not make those holes. And I had painted it white, and here you see me distressing it. Now I thought this was a perfect opportunity in order to hang this little heart. And as you can see here, I just got some inexpensive little jute string and I hot glued the back. Now you can add more berries on the back of this if you have it somewhere where you can see it from all angles. I'm just going to put it on a shelf so I don't need to worry about the back end. But then I took those strings through those two holes that happened to be there, and all I did was tie a bow in the center, and here's how it turned out. Now this next one's going to be a little bit different from all the other ones that you have seen. I had this little plaque and I didn't really know what to do with it, and I thought this would be a perfect chance to do something unique for Valentine's. So I had these IOD molds that were little keys as well as little locks, and I thought, oh my gosh, key to the heart, there you go. And I decided to use some air dry clay and create some. So the first thing you want to do is add a little bit of cornstarch so that your clay does not adhere to the mold. And then after you work it in your hands, just start pressing it and then remove the excess off the back. And yes, I have found that my Cricut spatula works really good for this. Now the key was a little tricky because it is nice and thin at the very end, but it worked out just fine. Now the best way to remove these once the molds are ready is to flip it over and then just kind of peel it off of the mold. And then I just set it off to the side to dry, making sure that it was on a straight surface. And I did the same thing to the little lock where the key is supposed to go in. Now, once they're nice and dry, they're going to be nice and solid and they won't be flimsy like you saw. I glued the lock piece on the center of the square, and then I began to paint it with like a taupe color. If I remember correctly, I used wood glue for this. Now I wasn't worried about painting the keyhole completely because I was going to paint it with some rub and buff, which is exactly what I did with the key, and then I came back and painted the little keyhole. After that, I took some DIY clear wax and I sealed the entire thing. But I wanted it to have a little bit more dimension, so I came in with my favorite white dust, sprinkled it all over, and then took my brush again and began to spread it back and forth so I can get some nice dimension on my canvas. I wiped off any excess and then I came back in with a little bit of white wax and just kind of touched up and highlighted the area around the keyhole. Next, I used a heart-shaped doily from Dollar Tree in order to trace its shape onto the board. While doing that, I was making sure that the keyhole was on the center of the doily. And then I used the shape that I traced as a guide to create a beautiful white rose heart surrounding the keyhole. Now once I made my way all the way around the heart, I came back and I took the little key that I had created previously and I decided to put it toward the bottom right of it, securing it with some wood glue. And I just thought this was a sweet and unique little Valentine's piece of decor. Now, if you're feeling a little adventurous, we're going to take it to the next level with some canvas painting. However, if you don't know how to paint, don't worry, I got you, because you're going to be able to access what I'm painting as a printable, and you're going to have a couple of options in order to print it out so that you can use it in your home or gift it to someone else. Now all I did was add some white chalk paint to the base of it because I didn't like the color of the canvas and I wanted it to be bright white. And again, using a doily, I am creating the shape of a heart towards the upper portion of it, kind of keeping it center but a little bit higher up. Next, using some washi tape that I had on hand, I'm cutting it into small pieces because I am going to be lining the interior portion of the heart with washi tape in order to protect it. Now once your heart shape is nice and taped up, you're just going to come in with some simple acrylic paint and you're going to start creating different floral patterns. You don't have to be an expert in painting. It's very simple. Here I'm just creating some roses. They might not look like roses right now, but you will see in the end. And honestly, I had never done this before. I just started adding more paint, making little buds, different kinds of flowers, using different kinds of colors that kind of coordinated with each other. And the reason you want the tape is because you want to be able to paint on the heart, but you want to get a nice crisp line to outline your heart at the very end. And you'll see what I'm talking about. And this was so much fun to do for the first time. I want to actually try it on a larger scale with different colors to see how it turns out. Once everything was dry, I began to remove the tape, and I'm totally using another Cricut tool here. Now, because I kept painting over the tape, now when I remove it, you see a nice crisp heart shape. Now, for this being my very first time, I do love how it turned out, and I was just very happy with it. Now, I know not everybody is going to try something as complex as this, so what I did was I created digital images of this and I uploaded them onto my website. And I actually have two options. You can print it out as an 8x10 and use it as artwork, or you can print it out as a card and you can just fold over a regular piece of cardstock and gift it to somebody. So I'll make sure to leave a link in my description box where you can sign up for my free printables library, or the link for you to sign in if you've already subscribed to download my free printables. And let's just be honest, sometimes we just have a whole bunch of random stuff that we've bought and we just don't know what to do with it. So for this one, that is exactly what I'm doing. I had this random heart shape, again from Dollar Tree, and all I'm gonna do is paint it white. And then I had this frame. I had a picture frame and it broke apart, and this is like the inside guts of it. But I thought it was kind of cool and I didn't want to throw it away. So I figured, okay, let's figure something out with this. And spoiler alert, my mom actually loved this so much that she took it and then she used it for a couple years in her house. So I had all of these florals left over from previous arrangements and I figured I could use them. And you know how I do, I love to remove the buds from all of the stems. And then after I did that, I began to adhere them onto the frame. Now I didn't have enough for the entire wood frame, so I thought I would do it in two corners, opposite each other of course, and I just began adding greenery as well as the different florals that I had on hand. And honestly, none of these florals went together. I was just trying to use up some of my stash that I had on hand and just create something out of it. Next, I wanted to hang the heart that I had painted earlier. However, I wanted it to look a little bit nicer, so I did string some wooden beads and I kept them unfinished just like the frame in order to hang the heart on the center. Now, I didn't actually hang it from the beads. I took some jute string and I placed it in the center of the two most center beads, and that's what I use in order to attach it to the frame. Of course, you don't see it because the greenery is in front of it. Now, I left the heart blank, but here I'm showing you a couple of options of what you can do with some decals or some hand painting yourself if you just want to use this for general usage or for Valentine's Day. Now I saved the easiest for last. Sometimes you see these little bags at your Dollar Tree for Valentine's Day, and I just happen to have these 3 little bottles in this little case, and I thought it would just be totally nice to just put them in the bags. This is not permanent and you can change them up for other seasons. I do know I've seen these in the past for Christmas. The next thing I did was I got this lamb's ear, and I believe this was probably from Walmart if I remember correctly. These are 99 cents a piece, and then I just added them to each of the bottles for a little bit of greenery, and that's basically it for this. Sometimes something like this that you wouldn't normally think to use as decor adds just a little bit of charm to our pre-existing items on our shelves or on our table. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below which one of these DIYs was your favorite. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll be back here very soon with another video. Until then, adios!